your town.
They'll die out eventually.
It's
We
never
can
going to happen.
make those types of people.
Moot point.
We can make those types of people die out. I really don't think it is.
Why do we want those people to die out? Well, Bezos, Amazon is a good thing for our life. It's made life so much easier for us. All right, it's killed retail, but it's so much easier for us.
Yeah,
like, do you want to go back to no Amazon days?
No, but what you're saying is that the only way that an Amazon could ever come to fruition is through this current system where you give this one guy
because
$200 million
because Bezos put a load of his money and everything on the line and borrowed money from his parents and went for it and built a brilliant company. Why would he do that if you say take all that risk and if you're successful you're still going to get what you get today? Well, I'm not going to do it.
Because
why would I do that?
Well, firstly,
right, should we kick off?
Yeah, what brand shirt is that?
Tommy.
Tommy. Yeah.
Thought
I recognised the little flag, but I couldn't.
I noticed you've got a new shirt on today, Bax. This is to showcase the new slimmer.
Well,
Bax.
yeah. You know, I thought I'd treat myself. Bought myself a few new garms.
Yeah,
garments.
It's very
Why are you telling me that?
I don't know. I just think you might not be up to speed with the vernacular of the kids.
Yeah.
So, do you like it?
No, yeah, it's subtle. I like it. What brand is that?
Man by Boohoo.
It's like a play on Versace, I think.
It is, yeah. And I've had like similar stuff to this in the past. Remember, I got a t-shirt in Camden Market years ago. Really nice, sort of like this, elegant pattern. And I saw this on the Boohoo site, and they only had it in medium. So, and I'm not a medium. So, but I was like, but I really want it. And all the other sizes were out, and I thought I'd be gone soon enough. And as I'm continuing to lose weight, I run 10Ks in under an hour. I thought I'll just buy it, and then eventually it'll fit. And it came, and I thought, it looks quite baggy. Just put it on because it's like an oversized fit, and it fits.
Looks all right, yeah.
So yeah, cheers.
We're lucky really because I nearly wore the same thing today.
Oh, can you imagine all three of us?
That would have been awesome.
Have you seen that video where all the wives buy their husbands the same t-shirt?
They all walk into the restaurant.
Yeah, one after the other.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah, no, I like it. You could have made more of an effort.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
Rob's just come from the gym, so
yeah. Just showcasing my new
That's
tam.
a good one to be fair. That reminds me of Donnie Darko.
Also.
Yeah.
Also.
All sense.
So, did you know it's my wedding anniversary this week?
Is it?
Yeah.
How many years?
8 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
On Tuesday. So Monday night, I'm driving home.
Yeah.
Thinking I need a card. So stopped at Lidl, as you do. They didn't have any anniversary cards, so I got a wedding card, nearest thing that they had. Anyway, so got home, doing two Nicola, blah, 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 all that shit. And then I thought, I'm going to be different. I'm going to add a poem to it. So I got on ChatGPT.
Yes.
Said, write me a poem to my lovely wife of 8 years, mentioning our two boys, Oscar and Jackson, and write it in the style of Lennon and McCartney.
That's right.
Okay, so it did. It was too long. I said it's too long. Write it short. So anyway, put it into the card, gave it to the next morning. She's delighted. She thinks I'm some sort of romantic poet as of now.
Yeah.
Anyway, it got me thinking. So somewhere in the UK, someone's job it is to write those shitty little poems that goes in cards. Right? And if I'm them, I'm looking over my shoulder at ChatGPT thinking, I should probably start retraining.
Yeah, true.
I've always wanted to be a tennis coach or something. And it just got me thinking, we are on the precipice, is that the right word? Of a real change in terms of automation and AI coming into the market.
It'll never be the same.
And replacing people.
It can't be the same.
Really? Why?
Well, you talk about poetry.
Yeah.
I heard someone commenting on music and songwriting.
Right.
But in the same vein as what you're talking about, i.e. is AI going to take the jobs of songwriters? And this songwriter that was on, he's sort of famous. And he was saying that they can't write Masterplan or Champagne Supernova or whatever it was. Noel Gallagher was talking about this because people have sent him, I don't know if you've heard these recently, AI versions of what is alleged to be an Oasis song, but it isn't. All they've done is taken really clever, but taken an AI version of Liam's voice and played it to some other indie rock type of song. But it's not the same, and it never will be, never can be, because what is in Noel Gallagher's mind is unique, and that skill can never be automated, I don't believe, and neither does Noel.
Why?
And I don't think he's worried.
But all Noel's done is he's listened to the Beatles and the Stones and all that, and it's gone in his head, and he's mushed it all together, and he's come up with...
He's not worried, and I think he's right not to be worried.
I think
and also,
he should be worried because he's made his money. It's the next Noel Gallagher.
But also, are you going to go and watch it in concert?
Who's been to see ABBA in concert recently?
True, but at least, but that's got sentiment, and it's holograms of ABBA. Yeah. This would be holograms of nothing and nobody.
No, because
nobody's written it.
So, Gorillaz, you know the band Gorillaz. Are you a fan?
They did 2 or 3 decent songs 25 years ago.
I think more than 2 or 3. But that was...
Name more than 2.
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Feel Good. Feel Good Inc. Yeah, Feel Good Inc.
There was another one. Anyway.
To be fair, no, I was a big fan of Gorillaz, to be fair.
Go on, what's your AI point?
So they were they were ahead of the time in the sense that it was a band created of characters that didn't really exist. A lot of it sort of
still musicians,
spearheaded by one guy, would get different musicians who would sometimes Russell would be this drummer and then it'd be that drummer or whatever. And even say electronic dance music, there's a time when people looked at that and said, oh, it's not real music, it doesn't have the soul and the blah blah blah, but it's like a predominant form of music now. And I think eventually when you can just...
But it still doesn't have the soul. That's still...
Maybe not right now, but what is soul?
Christ, this is getting...
do you know what I mean? What is soul, and what is... Is it feasible that one day mankind will be able to create a robotic form of life that is indistinguishable from man? More than likely.
I'm glad if it is, it's not in our lifetime, which I'm glad about. But I think the songwriting things, it's kind of related to what you were saying about poetry.
Isn't there a Drake song that's been made up?
I heard
Drake's a rapper from
Canada. So I've heard. Not a fan. But on the back of the Noel thing, I read an article and it had this Drake AI thing in it.
Yeah.
Have you heard it?
Yeah, but I don't know what a regular Drake song sounds like.
That's a good point.
I haven't heard it, but I've heard people talk about it and say...
And then it linked to a Michael Jackson one that was... it was the Weeknd song.
Yeah.
In Michael Jackson's voice.
But it was Michael Jackson's voice. So the voice stuff's clever.
Yeah.
But it still takes...
I think it's only a matter of time.
It still takes Noel or The Weeknd or some other songwriter to actually do it from the heart. Because to talk about poetry, I wrote a poem recently. And I'm not a geeky poet, but I'm in the process of writing another one for a special occasion that's coming up. Basically, the story is I was best man for my mate about 3-4 years ago. No, longer, sorry, 5-6 years ago. And I had to do a speech, of course, but I'm not particularly a fan of public speaking, and reading a speech is a bit naff. So I thought I'll cheat and I'll write it in a poem form, which I can get away with, and it makes it's funnier for a start. And it's easier for me to write. And so I did one recently for someone that used to work for us, and I'm in the process of writing another one for an upcoming event. What was my point? I forgot. Oh yeah, but only I can write the poem with the nuances around the subject matter. So if I'm writing about you, AI isn't going to say the same funny gags that I would write, because it doesn't know you. So there's the generic, and I bet you ChatGPT poem for Nicola was
did you tweak it?
As vague as it would have been generic, incredibly generic.
Well, I said reference Oscar Jackson these
but it's not.
I give it the content.
It wouldn't have got a little quirks that she has about the way she has a dimple in her cheek when she smiles or whatever. It wouldn't have had it wouldn't have had the nuances and the stuff that's specific to you and her. And that is why an AI bot could never replicate a proper poem. And as Noel says, it couldn't replicate the master plan.
Yeah, but so you're a purist, aren't you? And I think I sort of see where you're coming from as a musician myself. It's almost like it takes away from music and, art in general. If you can just have a machine just make Michelangelo's David or whatever, like on a 3D printer, does it take away from art? You know, we use like Midjourney, which can just create like art in 60 seconds. Now, I agree. Every Midjourney creation has this like uncanny sort of like, you can tell that human didn't create it. It's like too perfect or too clean. And it's possibly those little mistakes and the imperfection of the human condition that really is the true sort of underpinning of art. But sorry, go on.
I think people are judging AI from what it is currently, and it's on a journey, which means in 6 months' time it's going to be 10 times more powerful than it is today. And I think people need to understand that, because people are looking at AI and go, oh yeah, I got the wrong answer from ChatGPT 2 weeks ago, so therefore it's never going to
come from nowhere. It's come out of nowhere in 6 months.
Yeah.
So I'm using it every day now.
Same. It's so useful, especially as a time-saving device. And actually, going back to that imperfection thing, so you know when I did those voice clones, and specifically when I did the Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson one, so what I was really impressed by and fascinated by was, because I've seen these in the past, like maybe 5 years ago, and they're very monotonous and robotic or whatever. And when I produced these, it had like the little, like, you know what I mean? The little weird guttural sounds that humans make unconsciously in the sentences, which was like, so I'm thinking to myself, like, how did it know that, like, right before he said that, he should like take like a breath and then say it to add that emphasis? It was interesting. But why did you bring this up? Did you just want to show off?
Sorry, no, I wanted to just let you know I'm a poet nowadays. But also, that got me on to reading an article, I think it was in The Guardian, around universal basic income. Okay, so the idea being that the bots are coming. The bots are going to take away the jobs of the people that write the poems and the cards and lots of other people. Okay, and therefore, what do you do with this massive population? Are we going to be able to find new bits of work for them that ChatGPT or AI can't do? I'm not sure. Or do you just pay people a basic universal income? And so this trial was £1,600 a month. You just get it every month into your bank account, and for 2 years, and they're going to trial the impact of doing that. It's only on a small population of people, but then they've got a control group who they're not going to pay that to, and they're going to assess in terms of quality of life, in terms of their mental well-being, in terms of do they go out and find additional work. They're going to trial that approach. And I just wonder, with the rise of AI, is this something in 20 years, 10 years, 5 years? Is this something that, you know, the UK and the rest of the world will have to do to keep their population?
In 1900-ish, somebody said everything that's ever going to be invented has been invented. And if they'd have stopped there, we wouldn't be sat here talking to microphones and doing a podcast, because it's nonsense, obviously. And I think for similar reasons, if you look back at the rise of physical robots that took away manual tasks, there was never the need to invent or introduce universal basic salaries then, because the workforce, the human, is capable of redeploying itself into other things. The worry that I have about universal basic salaries, who's paying for it, because it's going to cost £1 trillion or close to. So that's just nonsense for a start. And B is it will categorically result in a proportion of the people, I don't know what proportion, doing sod all. Because you see it with you see the concern with people that have young children and the cost of nurseries and things like that, where it's more cost effective for them to not take the kids, not get a job and put the kids in nursery because of the expense of it. And it's more cost effective for some people to claim the generous benefits from the government than it is to get to work. So there is a proportion of the population that will happily take the money and as a result not feel like they're obliged to do anything. And that's a concern, because it leaves a huge amount of people unemployed because they don't have to work anymore.
Yeah, the argument on the cost I think is fair. So if you rough maths, there's 37-ish million people in the UK or in England and Wales of working age. So if you multiply that out by 20 grand, you do the maths. But it's
round it up to 40 million.
Yeah.
times 20 grand a year ish. It's 800 billion.
So it's huge figures we're talking about, and it would undoubtedly take years to get to that point. But I guess the argument would be, with the rise of AI and the rise of automation, the productivity of the UK and the world can increase significantly, and therefore we're a richer country and world than we were, that can therefore help to pay for this universal income. There
are so many jobs that AI I still think can't take. Well, we talked about songwriting for one, not that that's like a job, but it is for some people. But there are jobs around I don't know, you're going to come back with some arguments, like in the food industry or hospitality or entertainment, the stuff where there's a person needed. You probably say that they're no longer needed.
Which ones? Yeah, that's it. Each job you can sort of think, well, if you challenge yourself,
but do we want
with
that?
Physical robots and AI together, which ones can't be replaced?
The thing is, at this stage, we can choose whether we want that to be a thing. It's not as if AI is growing on its own. It won't. It still needs humans to build, to function it, to develop it and to let it function. We could switch it off if we wanted. No, but we can control it. This is a lot about this regulation that they're looking at, where does it stop? Because do we want a society where everyone's sat at home, the government's paying for it, and everything's automated around us? And I know we run a business that is building itself or building its growth plans around automation, but it's got to be to a point.
But how do you control that? Because Google, the Chinese equivalents, Microsoft, it's an arms race, and
do they want it? The people at the head of them
go, well, I don't want that songwriter to lose their job, so let's just slow down a bit, because they'll be thinking the Chinese aren't.
I hope I'm dead by the time this happens.
You won't be. You won't be.
Well,
Bax, come on, give us the other side of the argument.
Yeah, so I was just biding my time, but I think look at it from a different perspective. Yeah, so it's not just about AI and automation and whatever is going to take all these jobs away, therefore people won't have jobs. It's also, because people will say, well, if no one's working and there's people that don't want to do sod all, those people will always be there, right? But there's also people who want to do great things, that have great ideas, that could invent the next big thing, that will never have the opportunity to do so because they're locked in this cycle of just kind of, chasing bread and sort of like keeping the cataclysm of life at bay month by month by month.
So we automate the mundane.
Yeah.
And that frees people up to do more.
To do whatever they want.
And with that whatever they want, they create new initiatives and new ways of doing things that in turn creates more jobs. That's what's always happened.
Yeah,
that's
or
the cycle,
not necessarily jobs though.
But it will do. That's the cycle.
That's the structure of the world as we see it now.
For the last 2,000 years, that's the cycle.
Yeah, that's the cycle.
Stuff comes up, it makes your job easier.
Yeah.
You can go and do something else that creates a new opportunity for other people.
Yeah.
And then more jobs. And then you automate that, and then you move over there and more jobs. This is no different from the horse taking over the cow when it comes to ploughing fields.
I think it is.
The car taking over the horse. It's no different.
I think it is different because I think basically a universal basic income takes away a great deal of stress from every human being, so that they're not having to worry all the time. Can I pay my bills? Can I do this? Can I do that? So then all of the decisions that we're locked into, am I going to work in this job for 25 years even though I don't enjoy it? Well, I don't have to. I can try different stuff out. I can spend 6 months not working. Then I can suddenly be like, well, actually...
People get used to that.
Well, will they?
Comfort blankets can stifle the creativity.
You'd probably
because what is that phrase? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So I have to do something because I have to earn. I've got to be able to create. I've got to do something, and then that results in invention. Comfort blanket, which is the opposite of necessity, is the hindrance to invention.
Yeah, but you're basing that, and that assumption is based on the way things have always been.
Yeah, you're right.
And the way things could be.
The way I think on 2,000 years worth of evidence.
Yeah, but
Hi guys, just jumping in. I want to talk about one of the services we offer, which is robotic process automation, also known as RPA. That is software that replicates human behavior. So if you've got people downloading spreadsheets, attaching them to emails, going on portals, downloading information, moving data around, all that stuff is perfect for a robot. So if that's interesting, get in touch. Let's have a chat. Let's see if we can help. Enough from me. Back to the conversation.
No, but I think 2,000 years worth of evidence, sure. But it's been that way by necessity. Like the way we live now versus 2,000 years ago are unrecognisable to each other. Like we don't have to grow our own food. We don't have to light our own fires in our house to keep ourselves warm. We don't have to weave our own clothing or, you know, knock about in rags and pelts and stuff like that. I just think that we're so locked into the way things are that we can't imagine things ever being another way. I mean, I'm a big fan of Star Trek, and Star Trek in the future, there are no jobs. There is no money. They have these things called replicators, which can create anything, food, any device, any piece of clothing, whatever. No one needs to buy anything. No one wants for food. No one wants for money. And the whole society is just living the ultimate human existence of like, we can go out, we can be our true selves. We can create if we want. We can enjoy each other if we want.
But that is a made-up sci-fi thing where they can just click the fingers and a burger appears. This is the government's going to have to find 800 billion to each year to pay people.
Even that 3D printing of food, it's like it's happening. All these things that were dreamt up years ago, 50 years ago.
But there comes a time, and you called me a purist, and that's a compliment, I think, because it's not the same. A 3D burger isn't the same as a
is now
Gordon Ramsay burger.
But give it 5 years, will it be?
I doubt
3D print me Gordon Ramsay's burger, but actually take influence from other brilliant chefs and make it better.
And take all of the things that negatively impact my health that are in that burger and remove them.
All right, done.
But do we want it? That's the point. We have the control to be able to not want it.
I definitely want it, because this is what I'm thinking. Yeah, if I got £1,600 a month just into my bank account, guaranteed, I wouldn't just suddenly be like, well, I'm going to stop working now. I just think, well, now I've got £1,600 more, so that's brilliant, and I've got more opportunity and more flexibility. And actually, you know, not that you don't treat us really well as a boss, but like it would actually put more control into my hands, because there wouldn't be and again, you don't do this, but there'll be bosses out there that they tyrannize their workers because they know that the workers, I've got no choice. Like if I lose this job, I'll be destitute. Like I'll struggle. My kids will suffer. Blah 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 blah. I've got, you know, not me, but I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got car payments and so on and so on and so on. And we've got to equal the playing fields. At the end of the day, the way things currently are, where half of the global wealth is in the hands of the top 10%, the top 5% or whatever. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. And the current system props that up, and it can't ever be fair. And we can say, well, it is because they've worked really hard and they deserve it and whatever. But like, do they? Did they deserve it? You know what I mean?
It's not about deserving. Those capitalists are the people that employ everybody.
Yeah, true. But they employ everyone. Thank you, capitalists, for employing me. But also, you've locked me in a system where I'm trapped for my entire life, and I'll spend 50 years working 40 hours a week, barely seeing my children, barely having any free time to myself, getting 4 weeks worth of holiday a year. For me personally, maybe I'm just, you know, I've said it before.
You're in that trap and you're happy.
Well, you know, but I could be happier though.
You don't know.
You'd be happier, wouldn't you, if you didn't have to work? Yeah, but everything was taken care for you. Forget about who's paying for it or whatever, all that stuff. If you could just chill at home. Yeah, forget about reality as you see it. If you could just chill at home, Xbox.
Well, that's the worry. Is everyone just chills out?
You wouldn't be though. That's the point. You would be for about a day, maybe a week, and then you'll be bored and you'll be off doing something because that's in you. But yeah, so I did some research before this just to understand what's the arguments for it, because I was a bit like you. I was like, this sounds rubbish. Never happen. Right. So the hypothesis, if you like, still to be proven, is that it will encourage people to find work because it takes the pressure off them. And it's still, people will still be aspirational because they don't want to earn £1,600.
My reaction is brand new. I've never heard of this until you brought it up.
Yeah.
So this is my instant reaction. I'm absolutely willing to be to have my mind changed.
So let me
get on point one.
Yeah, go on.
I don't agree.
Okay. Second one, it reduces bureaucracy in the public sector massively. So how many people are employed working out benefits here and this benefits there, and that person gets that, but that person gets that? It removes all that. Everyone gets £1,600.
Big, massive tick for me. That massive I agree.
Tick. It increases bargaining power for workers. So yeah, people aren't locked in jobs that they don't enjoy, that causes stress, because they got that safety blanket to fall back on to then go and find another job. Seems positive.
I still think the safety blanket is, like in relation to point one, is the bit that stops a lot of people from wanting to get a job or needing to.
It will increase entrepreneurialism because, again, being an entrepreneur, starting a business requires risk. It requires you to, a lot of the time, stop your job and put your family and your mortgage, etc., at risk.
Yeah, people will take the leap of faith if they've got some security. Yes,
agreed. It will significantly improve mental health for people because, again, you're reducing that stress burden on people.
Free money is good for you.
Yeah. Rob Cavill, the quote of a lifetime.
No, my quote is for the thumbnail on this podcast is, I hope I'm dead by then.
It will improve physical health as well because people have time to do that. It will make people more creative.
But people only have
charitable.
time for physical work if they're not working. You don't have more time because of the 1,600 quid. You have more time if you stop working because of the 600 quid, which is contradictory to point one, where it says you'll get more people.
No, but
work.
you don't. Again, this whole 40 hours full time might not be necessary.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Because suddenly people can work half.
It's the gig economy.
Yeah.
Last one. So it increases creativity in charitable work as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the next Mozart could be stacking shelves at Tesco, and we're not getting the benefit of that because they have to do that.
You don't need a Mozart. ChatGPT can write a symphony.
No, but I honestly, I think, imagine how many brilliant ideas are out there.
Yeah.
And it's just the people are stuck in a situation. And you'll have, perhaps people of your ilk would say something to the effect of, well, if they really want to achieve that thing, they should go out there and achieve it, right?
No, I realise it's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
And people have different personality types, and someone could be really timid and mild-mannered, but still have an amazing idea that could just radically change the world. And we're never going to see that idea because we're in this, it's all competition all the time. I'm not saying competition isn't a good thing, but not everybody's competitive. And it's like society's unfairly set up. I've said this before, I think you brought up on a podcast or some video where half of society are morning people and half of society are evening people, but it sways more towards the evening people. Yet society is all structured around this morning routine stuff. Why? Why? If it sways more to the evening people, why have I got to crawl out of bed at 6:30?
There's a virtue signalling thing going on with that, though. I think morning people virtue signal more than evening.
Yeah, because they think that they're I
got up at 5:45.
Went for a run and stuff. Yeah,
did I mention my run this morning?
Which I've done myself as well. But it's do you know what I mean? It's not really sustainable, and it's society's fully structured like that, and it really is that because of the industrial age, era, or whatever. Probably is, but things just this whole 9 to 5 thing. Things just get set in stone at one point. Everyone's doing it. No one tackles it.
There's an argument that generally for society it works. That's why it worked. That's why it's worked for so long, for so many years.
But we've never done it any other way.
But it's evolved naturally and at the right level of pace. What this is doing is potentially flicking a switch and saying, right, everybody, as of tomorrow, you don't need to work so much.
Flick that switch.
So you mentioned before we came on, Elon is a fan of this idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so I think he was talking at some sort of tech summit. They have it in, is it in Dubai or Qatar or something like that? And they love him there as well. It does make me cringe a little bit how much people just stan over Elon. But he wasn't necessarily saying although I think he does think that it's a good thing to do. He was just saying it's an inevitability. It's going to happen regardless because the way that society and technology is transforming.
Well, no, AI taking more jobs and automating the mundane, I don't disagree that is going to happen.
Yeah.
The question, though, is what takes its place? Will new jobs be created and will the government start paying everyone a universal basic?
Well, it's interesting because
has he commented on that, the basic bit? Because AI is inevitable. Yeah, that's easy to say. But has he commented on the suitability?
Yeah. And basically said it'll have to happen. And he again, I can't quote him directly, but he basically said the money that's there, it's totally doable. It's like for me, it's like when people say, oh, we're overpopulated, like the world is overpopulated, but you could fit everybody in the world into like Texas, stood shoulder to shoulder. It's like we're not overpopulated. It's just the way that we choose to look at the situation in the system as it currently is.
People talk about it from the context though of fuel and food. But when you talk about population, rather than space.
Question on your, or challenge on your, it will automate the mundane. I'm not sure it will automate the mundane. Well, it will, but I think it'll automate everything else as well. Not everything, but think of a lawyer. You wouldn't consider that a mundane role at the minute, mundane task. Taking a 200-page contract and say, read that contract, Mr. Lawyer, and tell me the risks associated with me signing that contract. That's not a mundane task. Can you foresee AI doing that pretty quickly?
The advisory bit. I think I can absolutely see it, and it should have already done it. If you take conveyancing, for example, moving house, it's laborious and unnecessary to a large extent. The reality is what they do in conveyancing, if you added up the actual time that should be taken to do them 10 tasks on your checklist, take about an hour, but they drag it over to 8 weeks or whatever. So I think I can see the automation of those most mundane tasks. You're asking, can they automate the advisory element, aren't you?
Well, not just mundane, is what I'm saying. It was the blue collar workers that it was going to replace.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking it's not. Well, it will. But what about the white collar workers? It will replace them as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is different from the kind of tractor analogy that you used earlier. That the pace of change now versus 100 years ago is so significant that actually. Okay, tractor replaced the horse and cart, but then there was space for that individual to move on to something else. I think the thing that we would move on to is already being replaced. And that's the difference.
So we don't know what to move on to next.
Exactly. What is because the thing you would move on to is also being replaced by AI.
You've got to look at that list of roles that can never be automated, but you're saying they're maybe in the list. But who can...
I think it's a shorter list.
Who can do our jobs?
No.
So take a leader of a business.
I'm not saying all jobs. I think you probably could put an argument together to say how we could be replaced by AI actually. But I'm not saying all jobs will be. But if it's 70%,
and that's the universal basic. You end up with a challenge with that. You end up with uproar because the capitalists, the people that are leading these business, if they're an adult in the UK, they're eligible for £1,600 a month, which in itself causes uproar.
Yes, I agree. I thought that when I was reading it. There will be. Why
What's
is
the
Bill
criteria?
Gates getting £1,600 a month?
Yeah,
agreed.
And where do you draw the line? It's just a minefield of
I don't think I'd be that bothered because I'm getting my money, so like whatever. Bill Gates is already substantially richer than I am. If you get £1,600 on top of that, it's a drop in the.
You would hope a chunk of them would almost opt out.
It'd be like the threshold though for receiving child benefit. If you earn over a certain amount, you don't get it. It might just be on that.
Back into the system and checks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The idea is simple; everyone gets it. But yeah, just to follow that through, if 70% of jobs could be replaced in the next 5 years, what is that in terms of a number of people in the UK? We're talking tens of millions of people.
28 million.
That's the challenge. What do you do with 20 million people? Can you find new jobs for 20 million people in a short space of time?
Yeah, but we don't need jobs.
Exactly. Well, what you're saying is Star Trek and everyone's got free food anyway, so they don't need to earn. You're on about a society where...
Utopia.
Where there is no wage at all. It's not a universal basic. There is no money because everything's free.
I think personally, I think eventually that's where you arrive at.
Bonkers, this
because
podcast.
the whole thing is structured because it's like someone figured out a way to just make life a little less terrible. And over time, everything you could, these chairs, they're just literally to make us more comfortable. Like everything makes life just a little bit more enjoyable. And if we can get to the point where it's like, you don't even have to think about money. You don't even have to think about a vehicle or whatever.
But it needs a human input to decide whether this chair's comfortable.
Initially.
Because a bot can't decide.
No, initially.
As they evolve this chair and make it slightly more comfortable.
Yeah, a bot probably can. A bot probably can, and it'll be like, actually, it needs this certain rivet in the back, which like puts your spine into a certain position. look at all the stuff now, like stuff like this and what you were talking about, like the sort of assembly line, car building, whatever. It's obvious that AI is going to be able to make better decisions than humans. Obviously, the risk is, does it come to the conclusion of like, actually, we don't need humans, so let's get rid of them? But that's a topic for another podcast. I just personally think that in a few, and we're seeing signs of it, you know, but like, kind of a bad example, but like say Boris bikes and like these scooters that you can just pick up here, ride it, leave it over there. You don't need to buy a scooter, and eventually you won't need to buy a car, and you won't need to buy a house.
Someone's going to make it.
You won't need to own anything.
Or does the robot make the scooter?
Because the cost is all of the money being moved around.
And who makes the robot?
Well, we make them initially, and eventually they make themselves, and they maintain themselves. And cost and money and all that stuff. It's just a human creation anyway. It doesn't mean anything. It's just literally a way to
trading mechanism.
It's a trading mechanism, yeah. And eventually, if you don't need the trading mechanism, money, it's useless. And the only reason you need money is because you want stuff. But if you don't need stuff because you can have whatever you want, and then what would you be doing? What would we all be doing now if we didn't have to work here? Honestly, what would you be doing? Think of all the stuff you've always like thought, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, things like traveling and what else.
Yeah, and music, and you know, you might just want to write a book, and you think, I've got time.
But the soul's gone out of it because I'm listening to AI version of Drake or some nonsense.
Yeah, but maybe that's what ends up happening. We think that AI is going to replace music, but actually no. You free people up, and suddenly amazing new artists come forward because they're not in a battle to keep themselves alive.
It's like one of these post-apocalyptic movies that you're directing in.
I think it's utopian.
If you were you watch in 100 years, it'd be like Hunger Games or something, where everyone's just killing each other. Because the whole essence of society and soulful things and opinion has all been extracted.
I say to you, sir, that it is like Hunger Games right now.
No way. Well, is it?
You can see a situation where in 10, 15 years or whatever, your books written by a person are like these weird little niche market.
Yeah.
So, this is actually written by an actual individual, or
like you buy
written by a person. It's like, oh my god, that's so. People pay a real premium to actually go to a gig.
Like they do a handmade car. Singing. You can buy a Morgan or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That takes a point bugger all of the percentage of the car market.
Yeah.
You can still buy one that's made by a bloke in a brown overall, brown coat, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think there will still be 10, 20, 30% of the population that have got these jobs. But it's the mass that's the problem. And what do you do with the mass?
Just let them live their life, you know?
Get paid a universal basic income.
Yeah. In them utopia ones, I don't know if it's on Wall-E, the film. I watched it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or whenever it came out. But I seem to remember that they're living on a spaceship where everything's free and everyone's 25 stone.
Yeah.
And they're all just fat slobs because everything's on a plate.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened. Wall-E is my prediction.
There you go. Last one then. Your prediction.
Right now. I just
got to pick a film.
Yeah. So Hunger Games now.
Yeah. Don't you think? Like, look at the, maybe not for us because we're privileged to live where we live and be, you know, our society the way it runs, but like on a global scale, it's Hunger Games, isn't it? Because before I get to that, because I wanted to, so weirdly, I was Googling last night. It just popped into my head. I don't know why. It was something about, I thought to myself like, oh, what if you took all the wealth and evenly divided it? How much would everyone have? And I couldn't find a global breakdown, but I found an American breakdown. It basically said if all US wealth was divided equally, each and every adult would have roughly $500,000. And if the income was distributed equally, each American would have an annual flow of $95,000. Now, how is that not better than the current situation? Because it benefits way more people than the current situation, which benefits a few.
That's
I don't know, I'm sounding like Bernie Sanders, but like...
That's communism and socialism, and that hasn't worked well in the past.
Yeah, but I quite like my philosophy, right? There's a guy called Slavoj Žižek who's a philosopher, and he always says, that wasn't communism.
It never is.
And I know Jordan Peterson will be like, well, if you don't know. But I'm kind of getting sick of Jordan, to be honest. He's just waffling on all the time.
Talking sense.
I think that he's wrong. I don't think that was communism.
So why hasn't no one done it successfully?
What's North Korea?
It's pretend communism.
Pretend communism?
Yeah, it's tyranny. It's tyranny in the guise of communism.
That's what happens.
Look at China.
Because a tyrant rises up through all this lot, and everyone else is earning the same, and they're all doing the same thing, and then there's some lord that is a tyrant.
Yeah, but
that's what happens with communism, and it's happened every time communism starts to take off.
That's the classic structure of humanity, and it's the big flaw in human beings that we like. We just love to look up to someone, and we love to put someone on a pedestal, and we need to get away from that sort of stuff.
That ain't going to change. The problem with a lot of what you're arguing for is it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic to say, oh, well, ring Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and just say, you know, the 100 million you've earned this year, or whatever it is, probably billion. You're on 95k now, and I want you to redistribute that to everyone in your village or your town.
They'll die out eventually. We can make those types of people. We can make those types of people die out. I really don't think it is.
Why do we want those people to die out? Well, Bezos, Amazon is a good thing for our life. It's made life so much easier for us. All right, it's killed retail, but it's so much easier for us. Yeah, do you want to go back to no Amazon days? No,
but what you're saying is that the only way that an Amazon could ever come to fruition is through this current system where you give this one guy
because
$200 billion
because Bezos put a load of his money and everything on the line and borrowed money from his parents and went for it and built a brilliant company. Why would he do that if you say take all that risk, and if you're successful you're still going to get what you get today? Well, I'm not going to do it.
Because
why would it do that?
Well, firstly, it wouldn't necessarily be the same level of risk in this utopia, right? Would it? Because he wouldn't throw himself into poverty.
But then why? But why would he do it? There's no benefit to him of achieving that, is there? I'm getting 95 grand today, and if I work really hard and I work 16-hour days and I make a really successful company, I'll get 95 grand a year.
Because I think I think people, they do it for the money, but there's a greater desire to accomplish something great. You know what I mean? Status and being looked up to, like, in society, is also a big driving factor for a lot of people. I don't think it's always about like, oh, I want hundreds of billions of dollars. He didn't even realise he was going to get to that point. He saw a problem and he come up with a solution and then he pushed it forward. And I think, like, give everyone the freedom to find problems and push them forward. You probably see loads of Bezoses, but there's a Bezos somewhere now cleaning toilets in an office after we've all gone home, and we'll never see what they can produce because we're too scared or clinging to, like, this is just the way things are.
And that's why I can understand a safety blanket. I can understand the idea of giving people that safety blanket to fall on if it fails. I can never understand getting rid of capitalism and replacing it with socialism, because it's just been tried time and time again, and it fails time and time again for the same reasons.
My future is Star Trek. You were
Wally.
You were Wally. I'm Star Trek.
Awesome. All right, let's leave it there.
Wait, what's yours?
What's the other one? Is it iRobot or Minority Report? Yeah, I'll go with that one.
Dystopians.
Yeah, dystopians. Right, brilliant. Good chat. Thanks, team.
Cheers. Right, can I have 1,600 quid?
A month for free.
Yeah, please. Yeah.